Co-branded cards make up a part of almost every strong credit card portfolio. But what makes these cards so good, and should you consider picking one up for 2024? In today's video on the CreditVerse channel, we're going to discuss exactly that, and also give you our top picks for the best co-branded cards available right now. So first, what are co-branded cards? To put it simply, co-branded cards are just a partnership between a credit card issuer like a bank and another brand or retailer, oftentimes an airline or maybe a hotel. Some of the main benefits of these cards end up being the partnership-specific perks. Now, for a retailer, this could often be like a discount when you use that card, or an extended return policy. They tend to be a little bit more extensive for travel, oftentimes being things like a free checked bag, priority services, potentially status accelerators, which would get you status for that airline or hotel status even quicker, and other things like that. They also allow you to earn rewards with that specific retailer. So for example, with the RBC WestJet World Elite MasterCard, you'd be earning your rewards as WestJet dollars instead of straight up cash back that you can now use to book your WestJet flights. It's obviously not all sunshine and rainbows, but before we get to some of the downsides of the co-branded cards, we're going to give you our top 5 list of the best ones available right now. First up, the only hotel card available on this list, the American Express Marriott Bonvoy card, ends up being one of the strongest co-branded cards in Canada. It doesn't have super strong earn rates, earning 5 Bonvoy points for every dollar spent at Marriott properties, 2 points for every dollar spent at travel, and 1 point for every dollar spent everywhere else. But the perks do end up making up for it. First up, you do get Bonvoy Silver status, which admittedly is a little bit useless in North America, but you also do get 15 Elite Night credits, which means you only need to stay 10 more nights at a Marriott Bonvoy property, either through paid or redeemed stays, to get that gold status, which would give you late checkout, a complimentary room upgrade, as well as 25% more points. The main perk that makes this card so good is the free night certificate, which is given to you annually on your cardholder anniversary after the first year. This certificate can be redeemed for a stay at any Marriott property that costs under 35,000 points for that night. This is often enough for a stay at a premium tier property, but if you want to bump it up a level, you can put 15,000 points from your account towards a certificate and redeem for a stay that costs up to 50,000 Bonvoy points. In my opinion, this makes the $120 annual fee for this card worth it almost every single year, just because you're definitely going to save over $120 booking a stay at any Marriott property pretty much all over the world with just a few exceptions. It's also important to note how you use the rewards from all of these programs. For Bonvoy, this ends up being pretty simple. You have 3 main choices. You can use them for stays at Bonvoy properties with over 8,000 participating hotels over 131 countries. If you already have the accommodation sorted for your trip, you can opt to instead transfer them to a host of airline partners at a 3 Bonvoy points to 1 airline mile ratio, which is really nice for a couple of hard to access programs in Canada, like Singapore Airlines KrisFlyer or Emirates Skywards. The value here is oftentimes a little bit worse than redeeming for Marriott properties, but that being said, if there's a redemption that you're really looking forward to, and you just need a few more points, it may be worth just topping that up with your Bonvoy account, as opposed to waiting a couple of months or when you get the points and risk that redemption option going away. Lastly, another often overlooked opportunity is using your Bonvoy points to redeem through the Bonvoy Moments program. This allows you to get some pretty incredible experiences, such as backstage passes to some of your favorite musicians, or some incredible match day experiences at some of your favorite sporting venues. This usually isn't optimal value on a cent per point basis, but there are obviously some pretty incredible once-in-a-lifetime experiences that you can redeem through this program that you wouldn't be able to find anywhere else. So if you have a bunch of points saved up, or there's an artist or a sporting event you really want to go to, this may be a pretty wonderful way to use your points. We made a full video on this card. We dove a lot deeper into all these categories, which we've linked in the description below. In 4th place, we have the Brim KLM World Elite MasterCard, which is a pretty interesting choice just because it's so new, but we thought the overall package warranted its place here, especially if you travel to Europe. This card doesn't have the strongest earn rates or perks, earning 5 Flying Blue miles for every dollar spent on KLM or Air France flights, 2 miles for every dollar spent at restaurants and bars, and 1 mile for every dollar spent anywhere else. The perks are also just decent. You earn 30 XP, which is part of the Flying Blue status program, and you need 100 XP to get silver, so you still are about 70 XP away, which will make you do a good bit of flying if you want to get to silver status. As with all other World Elite MasterCards, you do get Boingo Wi-Fi and some pretty strong travel insurance, but again, this isn't something that's absolutely spectacular where the perks are really the reason to get this card. The main reason, which I've been, teasing all along, is how cheap it is to fly to Europe with this card. It's now just 20,000 points from all places in North America, one way in economy, which is an absolute steal, and it can often drop down to even 15,000 points with some of the promo rewards, meaning you go to Europe and back for about 30,000 points, which is just over $600. Compared to Aeroplan, which from the East Coast would charge you about 32,000 points on their own plane if you get the lower end of the dynamic pricing spectrum, or 40,000 points with partners, this is obviously cost savings already. With Avion Rewards, one way ends up being 32,500 points, plus a ton of taxes and fees, so KLM Flying Blue comes out so far on top here, and it's by far the cheapest way to get to Europe, provided you can find the availability. For $132, this card ends up being pretty strong value, and we wanted to rank these cards independently of their sign-up bonuses, but when this card has a 60,000 point bonus like it had from September to December last year, it almost becomes a no-brainer to pick up. The TD Aeroplan Visa Infinite Privilege and the CIBC Aeroplan Visa Infinite Privilege take up the first of the podium spots on this list, earning the highest earn rates of any co-branded card available in Canada. You earn 2 points for every dollar spent on Air Canada, 1.5 points for every dollar spent on gas, grocery, travel, and dining, and 1.25 points for every dollar spent everywhere else. This 1.25 point base rate is so high, it's about 2.5% on every purchase you make on this card, which is by far the strongest you're going to see for any co-branded card. These cards also have by far the most comprehensive perks. You get unlimited Maple Leaf Lounge access for yourself and one travel companion within North America, which includes access to Air Canada cafes, as well as 6 passes to lounge as part of the Visa Airport Companion program. There's also a handful of Air Canada specific perks that make this card so good. You get priority check-in, a first free check bag, priority baggage, priority security at some airports, as well as priority boarding. Upon spending $25,000 on the card, you also get a worldwide companion voucher, where the second ticket only pays $99 plus any taxes, fees, and surcharges to go anywhere in the world. There's also a $100 Nexus credit on this card every 4 years, which easily covers the application fee and makes traveling to the US just a breeze. There's also status accelerators on this card, which let you get to Aeroplan status even quicker. Obviously, it's not the most effective way to earn Aeroplan status because you'd have to spend so much to really even get the first tier, but if you're already gone a good way to getting Aeroplan status and you just need to get over that little hump, maybe earning a few additional status qualifying miles, some additional status qualifying segments, this card is pretty good to have because you can just spend a little bit on it and get some free miles. So you may be thinking, why is this card not just the best co-branded card in Canada? It has the best earn rates and by far the best perks. That's because you pay for these perks really significantly. The annual fee on this card ends up being $599, meaning to get maximum value, you have to be flying quite a lot every single year, and just specifically be flying with Air Canada every single year, because you're paying $599 for just a lot of these privileges. It's also important to note that there's a $150,000 minimum income requirement as an individual, or $200,000 as a household, which may make it a little bit challenging to get this card. In that case, you can opt for the Amex Aeroplan Reserve, which is pretty much this exact same card. It has the exact same perks, except those 6 passes to Visa Airport Companion lounges, but everything else is the exact same, and it still costs $599, but it doesn't have any minimum income requirement. Canada's other big airline also has a card that cracks this top 5 list. The RBC WestJet World-Elite MasterCard is one of the strongest cards available in Canada, specifically for those who fly domestically or within North America, especially those who are based close to their Calgary hub. In the way of earning on your spend, you earn 2% back in WestJet dollars on anything spent at WestJet or with WestJet vacations, and 1.5% on everything else. This is a strong base earn rate, but you have to remember that all these things are in WestJet dollars, meaning they're not technically as valuable as straight up cash back, because you do lose out on a little bit of flexibility. You're now forced to just use your WestJet dollars to book WestJet flights. This card comes in pretty strong with perks as well, offering 1 free checked bag for yourself and 8 other travel companions when you're going on a WestJet flight, which can easily save you a couple of $100s if you're flying with your family round trip. Next up is arguably the most notable feature on this card, the $119 annual companion voucher with this card. With this voucher, you can book a round trip flight anywhere WestJet flies and add a companion to your booking for $99 plus taxes and fees for places within North America and $399 for anywhere around the world. You can often save hundreds of dollars doing this, and you're going to find the best value where the taxes and fees end up being low, so places in Asia tend to be a little bit better than places in Europe, for example, because Europe has a lot of surcharges, taxes, and fees that are not part of the base fare of the ticket, but are just part of the overall cost, which you don't really see unless you're booking with WestJet dollars. If you're a big spender, this card also has status lift, similar to how the Aeroplan cards have it, where if you spend $15,000 on this card, you get $500 towards your WestJet status for that year, and I think you can get this 3 times a year, and then you get $1,500 in tier qualifying spend, when you need $3,000 for, silver status. This, of course, won't get you all the way to status, but if you're almost there, you just need to spend a little bit more, It, again, may be good value to just spend a couple of $1,000s, get your status for the next year on things you'd be buying anyways. Obviously, overall, I don't think the program is anywhere near as strong as Aeroplan, although it is getting stronger and stronger as days go on, and WestJet starts adding more international routes. The lack of strength luckily lends us to some simplicity when actually redeeming WestJet rewards. You can use one WestJet dollar for $1 off the base fare of any WestJet flight anywhere they fly at any time, as there's no blackout dates and no dynamic pricing gremlins to really deal with. This makes it super easy to redeem. It's basically just having a gift card on your account all the time, and it just is nice to use because you don't have to worry about any time that you won't be able to redeem. Or for example, with Air Canada, there's a lot of dynamic pricing when you're doing points. So it's just super nice to use, and it's one of my favorite programs for that reason. I just hope it got a little bit stronger. This all comes for a $119 annual fee, which we think makes it one of the better value cards available in Canada, and by far one of the strongest co-branded cards available here. Again, if you'd like to learn a little bit more about this card, specifically learning how much you'd save from using the companion voucher in different places, or really seeing if it makes sense for you, be sure to watch our full video, which we've linked in the description below. Without further ado, the best co-branded card available in Canada today ends up being the TD Aeroplan Visa Infinite, or the CIBC Aeroplan Visa Infinite. It earns 1.5 Aeroplan points for every dollar spent on gas, grocery, and directly with Air Canada, as well as 1 point spent everywhere else. It doesn't have all the same perks as its big brother that costs $599, but it still gets you free check bags for yourself and 8 other travel companions if you're on the same booking, as well as preferred pricing, which saves you about 5 to 15% on your bookings made with Aeroplan points. And you do also get insurance on all your award bookings as long as you pay the taxes and fees with this card, and of course using Aeroplan points for your booking. Both cards come around pretty regular with annual fee waivers, but otherwise they do cost $139 a year, which we think is by far the best value and an immediate pickup for anybody who flies Air Canada, even twice a year if you check a bag in, because you save so much just having this card. You can also get the annual fee waived in subsequent years by holding a CIBC Smart Plus checking account or its TD counterpart. It's also important to note here that this card has $60,000 of personal income as a minimum requirement, or $100,000 as household income, but if you don't have that, again, fear not, there's an Amex card that's equivalent to this, being the American Express Aeroplan card, which actually costs $120, but we didn't put it as number one, just because it's an Amex card and it sometimes makes it a little bit more difficult to use. And we think having a Visa card makes up for a slight annual fee increase, but the availability to use it at so many more places, as Amex is still just catching up. Now, we talked about all the really good things about co-branded cards and what some of our best picks are, but we also mentioned that we talk about some of the downsides. This comes in two forms, of course. One is all the points you earn can only really be redeemed at that retailer, or at a really poor rate if you want to move from that retailer to somewhere else. For example, if you have Aeroplan points, you can technically redeem them for gift cards on Aeroplan site, but they're at such bad value that you may as well just get a cashback card and call it a day. Other points currencies, like American Express membership rewards, are transferable points currencies, so instead of having the lock-in effect just to Air Canada, you can move them around to a bunch of different options. For example, if you want to move from MR to Marriott Bonvoy to book some hotels, that's an option. You can move them from MR to Aeroplan, you can move them from MR to Avios. There's so many different options available there, and there's a lot less lock-in, but at the same time, oftentimes the earn rates end up being worse on cards like that, because they know that it's much better value to have a card that earns that specific amount of points, and you can give them a few more points if you're forcing them to spend it with your specific carrier. Second, all the perks on the card end up being super specific to that retailer or that airline. Of course, this is almost common sense, but for example, the free bags would end up being only on Air Canada flights if you have the Aeroplan card, not on WestJet flights, which is a little bit annoying because if you want to fly both, you'd have to get both cards if you want to get that free bag benefit. This is of course totally fine if you're super committed to one program, but sometimes it can make it a little bit tricky if you bounce between programs, or sometimes you want to fly Air Canada, sometimes you want to fly WestJet, sometimes you want to fly Porter or Flair or Lynx or whatever the case may be. That does make it a little bit more challenging if you just are stuck with one card. Overall, we'd recommend co-branded cards for people who are relatively committed to one program or another, or if you're just committed to two programs like WestJet and Aeroplan, it may be totally fine just picking up both of those cards because they only cost you about $240 a year, and you do get enough perks with them that if you fly maybe 3 or 4 times a year, maybe 2 with each program, you do end up easily netting out on all the benefits, and you'd be able to get some more benefits by just getting points and racking those up and using them to redeem for whatever program you think ends up being best at the end of the day. Sorry for a little bit of a rant at the end there, but we do hope you really enjoyed this video. Let us know what you thought about our list and what your favorite co-branded card is available in Canada. We'll see you in the next one.